Okay, so let me try to see if I can word that into a question. So basically, for those who don't know, there has become a phenomenon around the nation where people chant a rather vulgar sentiment about the sitting president. And on one such occasion, an interviewer, while the crowd was chanting, was interviewing a person whose name happened to be Brandon, and then commented to them, "Hey, look at that, the crowd's chanting, 'Let's go Brandon,' when they were really chanting the vulgar thing about the president." And so now it's become a meme. It's all over the place. You can get T-shirts, people post it, and just the statement. And so with that and with the popularity of this going on, how do we as Christians, how should we respond? Well, what should be our take on that kind of thing? Is that basically what you're...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's not a call to pray for this man.
Right.
And it does seem like...
So rather than embracing the sentiment of the chant, shouldn't we be rather responding with love and prayer? I'm just trying to get a sense of your question so that we know what to respond to.
I guess so, even though I feel like that's not something I would want to do, but I think it's something that if you're going to show that you're the mark belonging to God, is probably what you should do. But it seems like the church has joined in with this culture. That's, I guess, what I'm saying. It just feels to me like the church has joined in with the chant, with the meme, and I don't hear anybody trying to direct the church a different way.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. There's 15 different angles that this could be talked about. But I think kind of most fundamentally is this question of looking at the New Testament, looking at the life of Christ, looking at Proverbs, looking at Ecclesiastes, looking at the scriptures and asking a question based on what we can see about the character of God. What should the appropriate response be? And then not only does that inform how I need to be responding to it, but it also tells me what are things that I need to be talking about with my church leadership about where we're going wrong as a congregation. So those are kind of the two things that I think of is what do I need to be doing and who do I need to talk to about that to make sure that the congregation I'm part of is being shepherded in a direction that proclaims the glory of God, which in Exodus 34 we're shown is his goodness, his compassion, and his mercy. The glory of God is fundamentally his goodness on display for all to see. And if we're failing to make that proclamation, something's wrong on our end. And so whatever we would need to do to facilitate that proclamation in this situation is what I would want to go looking for. And I didn't even know this was going on until you asked your question. So that's what I'll be doing this week.
You really seriously did not? Do y'all know what I'm talking about?
I had no clue.
It's going on specifically at stadiums and sporting events. So if you're not really into watching sports or you're not into college football, you probably aren't aware of it. I only learned about it because somebody had mentioned it and I looked at it on YouTube. There was a video of somebody explaining it. And that's the only way I even found out.
It's not on the mainstream news.
No,
They're
not covering that.
You will find it on conservative news channels, though.
So, you can look it up if you want to know more about it. But a few things. First, I don't know of any church getting behind the slogan per se. It's definitely something that is a cultural phenomenon, if you will, and just the way things work these days, it tends to go viral in different ways. So I think the first thing I'd say is I don't know if there necessarily needs to be a reply from a believer, other than maybe if I was a pastor and I felt a certain way about it, which would come down to personal conviction, and someone under me, let's say, was making a big deal about it, I may sit them down and talk with them. But as far as responding to what the culture is doing, I'm not so certain that we need to respond to the culture, because the culture is going to do what the culture is going to do. And it's more of a political issue as opposed to, anything ecclesiastically related per se directly. On top, the church could make up their own chant, pray for Brandon. I don't know. But, then that might be a whole another thing. And one of the reasons, though, I think it's gone viral, and I'm neither condoning nor rebuking this, but just food for thought. I think a real reason it's gone viral is because of how it came about. Let me just say it bluntly. The media is so biased and so one-sided that they try to sugarcoat or cover up stuff. And I think here is a clear example. For those that don't know, that vulgar chant that's been going around, the guy who won the NASCAR's name was Brandon, and the people in the crowd were obviously chanting the vulgar chant. And the news reporter said, "Oh, they're saying, 'Let's go, Brandon.'" It clearly was not, "Let's go, Brandon." I'll put it that way. And I think the meme has turned into a way of mocking the media, thinking, you really think we're this stupid, that you're trying to cover something up. And it's become more of a making fun of the media almost, as opposed to the original chant per se. Now, again, that's neither for nor against, but it's at least recognizing that here is an instance, whether you're in favor or just don't like the chant, I think it's the culture speaking up and saying, we know what you're trying to do. And rather than, let you have it, so to speak, we're going to run with it and use it against you because you're clearly trying to manipulate something, and they're kind of running with it. So in a nutshell, I don't know if there needs to necessarily be a reply unless it is disrupting something the church is doing. I don't know of any church that's, that has it like on their, in their marquee or whatever. I hope not. And of course, we should always be praying for our leadership.
One thing I would want to say is, whenever there are issues here that have to do with, it is complex. Whenever we have a leader who is so 180-degree opposite of our principles, it's easy to kind of, be like, yeah, don't like that guy. However, we are called to love. We are also called to oppose evil. We are called to champion justice. I would actually say that as Christians, in loving our neighbors, that we should stand up against tyranny. And so I don't know that we need to jump in on vulgar cultural trends in doing that, but I can see how people with those drives can get caught up in it. On the issue of we shouldn't be, chanting the vulgar things, that we should be praying for our leaders. When the Bible calls us to pray for our leaders, it's not just a generic, pray for your leaders. But whenever we pray, our prayers are for the will of God. And so as we pray for our leaders, our prayers aren't for necessarily the success, health, and well-being of the leader, but rather that God would use that leader for his will to be accomplished. Where is it? Which Timothy? I lost it. 1 Timothy chapter 2, whenever it talks about it, it says, "I urge then, first of all, petitions, prayers, intercessions, thanksgiving be made for all people." Verse 2, "For kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness." So even there, whenever it's saying, hey, pray for your leaders, it's saying pray for your leaders that, that they're not oppressing and persecuting and coming against the people of God, that we are able to live peaceably with them. And so, yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily a helpful thing to be coming against a leader with a vulgar, hateful attitude. Rather, we should be praying for them that God's will be done through them, or at least that, if they're determined to act against God's will, that we be able to live peaceably, godly lives in the midst of the tyranny. But we're not supposed to be vulgar people. And that's one of the things, that it's easy to struggle with, because you see something that you might otherwise, think, yeah, let's go, Brandon. But no, that, we're not called to be vulgar people. That's not the toolbox that we work from.
So pray for Brandon t-shirts next week.
Pray for Brandon t-shirts.